12 buckshot pellets, a wound 4 inches across. The tombstone coroner could cover it with one hand, and Tom McClory was dead before he hit the ground. The man next to him took 2 revolver rounds through vital organs. He fought on for 30 minutes. Same gunfight, same distance, one man killed instantly, one fighting for half an hour. The 10-gauge shotgun delivered the equivalent of 8 simultaneous .45 Colt hits. Each pellet measured .33 caliber. Both barrels fired indoors would have blinded everyone in the room with an opaque, sulfurous fog lasting 30 seconds. Hollywood gave the West the quick-draw revolver duel, but when real lawmen expected to kill, they reached for a weapon that would later be called a coach gun, a term that didn't exist in the 1880s, and what it actually did to human bodies is a horror story the movies never told. This is the real weapon that won the West. Welcome to Wild West Revealed. The quick-draw revolver duel from every Western you've ever seen? Historians call it largely a fabrication. Bob Munden, the Guinness-recognized fastest draw in history, said it plainly. There weren't any fast-draw artists in the Old West. The guns weren't designed for it, and the holsters were designed to keep the gun in place. The iconic Buscadero-style fast-draw holster was invented for silent films in the 1920s. Real frontiersmen wore simple leather holsters high on the hip, and most kept pistols in pockets or waistbands. When actual violence happened, it wasn't a formalized duel. It was ambush, assassination, drunken chaos. Dodge City's most homicidal year, 1878, saw exactly 5 killings. Historian Robert Dykstra documented only 15 murders in Dodge City across the entire decade from 1877 to 1886. The Wild West was far less wild than Hollywood needed it to be. But when frontier violence did happen, when lawmen and express messengers expected serious trouble, they didn't reach for a 6-shooter, they reached for a shotgun. The Colt single-action army, the legendary Peacemaker, was actually a luxury item that most frontier Americans couldn't afford. The Harrington and Richardson revolver outsold it roughly 10-1. Most settlers still use muzzle loaders and cap and ball revolvers well into the 1880s. Fancy cartridge guns were expensive. The double-barreled shotgun, by contrast, was the single most versatile and economical firearm on the frontier. Available from $15 for a cheap Belgian import to over $200 for a high-grade Parker Brothers, it served equally for hunting and defense. One historian called it the crowd tamer. Its mere appearance could end a confrontation before it started. Wyatt Earp, who used shotguns in at least 2 confirmed killings, described the weapon with brutal honesty. Not a scientific weapon, not a sportsmanlike weapon, not a weapon wherewith to settle an affair of honor between gentlemen. It was a weapon for ending fights, not winning them. If you're learning something new about the real Old West, hit that like button and subscribe. The details coming up about what this weapon actually did to human bodies, you won't find them anywhere else. So what exactly was the frontier shotgun? Not the modern Magnum you might picture, something older, cruder, and in some ways more terrifying. The 10-gauge bore measures .775 inches in diameter, determined by the Old English system, where 10 lead balls of bore diameter equal 1 pound. Period shells were 2 7/8 inches long, loaded with black powder. Not the 3.5-inch Magnum cartridges Winchester introduced in 1932. The period load held approximately 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 ounces of shot, roughly equivalent to a modern 12-gauge field load. A standard 10-gauge 00 buckshot shell contained approximately 12 pellets. Each pellet measured .33 caliber, about 1/3 of an inch, and weighed roughly 53 to 54 grains. From both barrels, the shooter unleashed approximately 24 pellets. Here's where the math gets brutal. Each individual pellet carried only about 120 to 157 foot-pounds of energy, less than a .380 ACP pistol round. But the devastation came from simultaneous delivery. 12 wound channels created at once, each penetrating 12 to 18 inches of tissue. Muzzle velocity ran 900 to 1100 feet per second. Total energy per barrel, approximately 1440 to 1740 foot-pounds. A .45 Colt revolver delivered around 400 to 450 foot-pounds. Both barrels of a 10 gauge delivered the equivalent of nearly 8 simultaneous .45 Colt hits. The term coach gun itself, coined by modern gun collectors, not frontier Americans, no American manufacturer cataloged a short-barreled coach gun as a standard product. Every short-barreled scattergun on the frontier was either custom ordered by express companies or cut down from standard hunting models. Period-accurate names included cut-down shotgun, messenger's gun, scattergun, documented from 1836, and Greener, genericized from the British firm W.W. Greener. The major manufacturers built their doubles with Damascus steel barrels, external rabbit ear hammers, and double triggers. Colt's model 1878 ran $60 to $100. Remington's model 1882 in 10 gauge sold for approximately $75. A Parker Brothers lifter from 1876 was documented at $200, astronomical when laborers earned $8 to $10 per week. But the specifications only tell half the story. What made the frontier shotgun truly terrifying was what happened when it fired. Black powder produces approximately 55 to 60% of its mass as solid combustion products. Potassium carbonate, potassium sulfate, potassium sulfide, a dense, lingering white-gray cloud that clung to still air. A single 10-gauge discharge indoors would significantly obscure vision. Both barrels fired in rapid succession would render a normal saloon nearly opaque for 10 to 30 seconds. The muzzle blast reached an estimated 155 to 160 decibels, well above the 140 decibel pain threshold. The flash extended 12 to 24 inches from the barrel, brilliant orange-yellow. In an enclosed room, everyone present would be temporarily blinded, deafened, and disoriented. That's what the weapon could do on paper. Here's what it actually did to real men. October 26, 1881. Approximately 3 p.m. vacant lot on Fremont Street, Tombstone, Arizona Territory. 8 men, 30 seconds. The gunfight that became the most famous in Western history, and the one detail Hollywood always gets wrong. Deputy U.S. Marshal Virgil Earp had borrowed a 10-gauge double-barreled sawed-off from the Wells Fargo office, approximately 18-inch barrels. He passed it to Doc Holliday with instructions to conceal it under his long duster coat so the public would not become alarmed. The Earps and Holliday faced Ike Clanton, Billy Clanton, Tom McClory, Frank McClory, and Billy Claiborne. Words were exchanged. Hands moved toward weapons. Holliday fired the shotgun into Tom McClory at approximately 6 to 10 feet. Coroner H.M. Matthews documented the result. 12 buckshot wounds on the right side under the arm, between the third and fifth ribs, within a wound approximately 4 inches across. The town mortician could cover McClory's wound with one hand. The blast devastated the lung, causing massive hemorrhage and pneumothorax. McClory staggered. He was dead within minutes. Billy Clanton, standing nearby, was shot twice by revolvers. Once near the left nipple penetrating the lung, once in the abdomen. He fought on for 30 minutes before dying. The difference in lethality was documented and stark. One man killed instantly by shotgun. Another fighting for half an hour with 2 revolver wounds through vital organs. Holliday weighed only 122 to 130 pounds, ravaged by tuberculosis. Some accounts suggest the recoil knocked the shotgun clean out of his hands. He drew his nickel-plated Colt revolver and continued fighting. Films depict the OK, Corral, as a revolver duel between Wyatt Earp and the Cowboys. The decisive weapon, the only one that killed a man instantly, was Doc Holliday's borrowed shotgun. 4 months later, Wyatt Earp demonstrated what a shotgun could do at even closer range. March 20th, 1882, approximately 7:15 p.m. Southern Pacific Railroad Depot, Tucson, Arizona Territory. Wyatt was escorting his wounded brother Virgil to a California-bound train. He'd received intelligence that Frank Stillwell and Ike Clanton were at the depot with shotguns, waiting to assassinate Virgil. After putting Virgil on the train, Wyatt spotted Stillwell on the tracks near a flat car. Both men ran. Stillwell stumbled. Wyatt's own account, published in the Denver Republican on May 14, 1893. I ran straight for Stillwell. It was he who killed my brother. What a coward he was. He couldn't shoot when I came near him. He stood there helpless and trembling for his life. As I rushed upon him, he put out his hands and clutched at my shotgun. I let go both barrels, and he tumbled down dead and mangled at my feet. Dr. Dexter Lyford performed the autopsy. 6 buckshot holes within a radius of 3 inches, penetrating the liver, abdomen, and stomach. Powder burns on his coat. The muzzle was within inches of his body. Additional wounds included a ball through the body under the armpits, a rifle ball through the upper left arm, and buckshot breaking the left leg. The coroner determined Stillwell had been hit by 5 different weapons. Tucson diarist George Hand saw the body. He called him the worst shot-up man I ever saw. Stillwell died grabbing for the barrel of the gun that killed him. Whatever his crimes, his final moments were terror and helplessness. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about real history, not the sanitized version. Drop a like so I know to keep digging into stories like this. Earp and Holliday weren't the only men who understood what a shotgun could do. The frontier was full of men whose lives depended on this weapon, and one shotgun in particular has a body count that spans 14 years. Wells Fargo's messenger force grew from approximately 35 in the mid-1870s to 110 by the early 1880s, 200 by 1885, and 3,000 by 1918. Between 1855 and 1915, at least 53 Wells Fargo expressmen died on duty. 19 slain by outlaws, 4 accidentally shot, 4 killed in shipwrecks. The phrase riding shotgun was never used in the actual Wild West. The earliest documented print use is 1905 in Alfred Henry Lewis's fiction novel The Sunset Trail. Linguist Grant Barrett traces its modern explosion to the 1954 Randolph Scott film. Historian John Bosenecker stated it directly. Such terms as riding shotgun and shotgun rider were invented by 20th century novelists and were unknown in the Old West. The actual period title was Shotgun Messenger. Eugene Blair served as one from approximately 1872 until his death from consumption in 1884. He gained such a fearsome reputation that Wells Fargo decided to retire him. He was being singled out by name, and they feared revenge killings. The company paid for his funeral and erected his tombstone. Wyatt Earp understood the psychological dimension. Most of all, they hate him because of his shotgun, the homely weapon that makes him the peer of many armed men in a quick turmoil of powder and lead. And of the outlaw's perspective on facing a messenger, that is the cursedness of the shotgun messenger's life, the loneliness of it. He is like a sheepdog feared by the flock and hated by the wolves. Wells Fargo invested $512,414 on security against $415,312 in actual losses from 1870 to 1884. The deterrent was worth more than the robbery itself. The single most historically significant frontier shotgun in existence is a J. Stevens & Company 10 gauge with 22-inch barrels and a distinctive 3-trigger configuration. Serial number 927. Wyatt Earp used it to kill Curly Bill Brocious at Iron Springs on March 24, 1882. Though some historians dispute this killing, he returned it to Fred Dodge, an undercover Wells Fargo agent. Dodge later lent it to U.S. Marshal Heck Thomas, who used it to kill outlaw Bill Doolin on August 24th through 25th, 1896. Doolin's post-mortem revealed 20 buckshot wounds in his chest. 4 penetrated the heart. That shotgun sold at Heritage Auctions in February 2020 for $375,000. 1 weapon, 3 legendary lawmen, 2 confirmed kills 14 years apart. The Frontier shotgun wasn't just a tool, it was a legacy passed hand to hand, body to body. The Cody Firearms Museum at the Buffalo Bill Center of the West houses over 10,000 firearms artifacts, including the Ithaca Gun Company factory records, the primary documentation source for Wells Fargo shotguns. But authentication remains treacherous. One expert stated flatly, "Stamping or branding Wells Fargo on older double-barreled shotguns is so common, about 99% of those guns will be fakes, Hollywood still gets it wrong. Films show victims falling neatly, cleanly. The reality? 12 buckshot pellets through the rib cage, organ devastation, massive hemorrhage, was medically catastrophic. The flying backward trope is physically impossible. Newton's third law dictates that if a blast could throw a victim backward, it would equally throw the shooter. People collapse from internal damage, not momentum transfer, and most westerns omit the smoke entirely. Both barrels of a 10-gauge indoors would have blinded everyone in the room with an opaque, sulfurous fog lasting 10 to 30 seconds. Tombstone got it right. Armorer Peter Sherayko tracked down the exact Stevens 10-gauge model documented as Earp's weapon. Val Kilmer carried a Belgian Meteor 10-gauge for the OK. Corral sequence. The quick-draw revolver duel was a myth. The low-slung, fast-draw holster was invented for silent films. The Colt Peacemaker was a luxury most couldn't afford. When the real frontier turned violent, when men who made their living from guns expected to kill or be killed, they didn't reach for a 6-shooter. They reached for 2 feet of sawed-off steel loaded with 00 buckshot. And when they pulled the trigger, coroners measured the results in inches. If you made it this far, drop a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the real Old West, the stories Hollywood couldn't tell you. Share this with someone who loves American history. I'll see you in the next one.